What if everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations was just a fragment of a much larger puzzle, one that's been hidden beneath the sea for over 3,000 years? Why did a brilliant archaeologist vanish without a trace while searching for something the world said didn't exist? And what lies buried deep below the Mediterranean, so ancient, so advanced, it could rewrite human history? When Dr. Maya Ramsey dives into the depths to uncover the truth her grandfather died chasing, she finds more than ruins. She finds secrets. Secrets whispered by stone, guarded by silence, and waiting for someone who dares to ask, what if the legends were true? What if the cities never truly vanished, just waited to be found? Depths of memory. The secret of submerged cities. The submersible's lights pierced the murky darkness as Dr. Maya Ramsey guided it through the silent depths. 300 feet below the Mediterranean surface, off the coast of Alexandria, she was chasing more than just shadows. She was hunting history. "Sediment levels look stable," her voice crackled through the radio to the research vessel above. "I'm approaching the coordinates now." For 15 years, Maya had dedicated her career to underwater archaeology, but this expedition carried personal stakes. Her grandfather, renowned marine archaeologist William Ramsey, had disappeared in these waters 30 years ago while searching for evidence of a submerged civilization beyond what was already known of underwater Alexandria. His final journal entry had contained just 3 words: "Found the gateway." The academic community had written him off as another victim of treasure fever, the obsession that sometimes drove researchers to see patterns where none existed. But Maya had inherited not only his journals but his intuition. The submersible's sonar pinged, indicating a massive structure ahead. Maya adjusted her trajectory, heart pounding. "I'm seeing something," she reported. "Definitely artificial. Massive stone blocks in a rectangular formation." "Probably part of the known Alexandrian ruins," replied Dr. Nasir Khalid, the Egyptian antiquities official monitoring the expedition. His skepticism had been evident since Maya had proposed the expedition. "No," Maya countered, "we're 2 kilometers east of the mapped sections. This is something else." As she cleared a ridge of underwater sand dunes, the submersible's lights revealed what appeared to be a temple entrance, massive columns still standing after thousands of years beneath the waves. But what caught Maya's attention wasn't the Grecian architecture she'd expected. These columns bore unmistakable Minoan design elements, complete with the distinctive spiral patterns associated with ancient Crete. "This doesn't make sense," she whispered, forgetting the radio was still active. "Minoan influence this far from Crete, and blended with Egyptian elements." "What are you seeing?" Nasir's voice had lost its skepticism, replaced by genuine curiosity. Maya maneuvered the submersible closer, examining inscriptions that time and saltwater had failed to erase completely. "I need to document this. It challenges everything we know about Mediterranean cultural exchange during the Bronze Age." 3 days later, Maya stood in the makeshift laboratory aboard the research vessel, examining 3D scans of the underwater structure while Nasir paced behind her. "The dating is conclusive," she explained. "These structures were submerged approximately 3,200 years ago, corresponding with major seismic activity recorded in Egyptian papyri from the late New Kingdom period." "The timing aligns with the eruption of Thera," noted Nasir, referring to the massive volcanic explosion that devastated the Aegean around 1600 BCE. "But that doesn't explain the Minoan elements this far from their territory." "Unless their influence extended further than we've ever documented," Maya suggested. "Or unless this wasn't a permanent settlement but something else, perhaps a trading outpost or a diplomatic center." Their discussion was interrupted by one of the technical staff. "Dr. Ramsey, we've completed the penetrating sonar map of the site. There's something you need to see." The 3D projection revealed what the initial surveys had missed. The visible temple was merely the entrance to a vast complex extending beneath the seabed. What they had discovered was just the tip of a city-sized settlement. "My God," whispered Nasir, "this could rewrite Mediterranean history." As the expedition continued, each discovery raised more questions. Artifacts bearing symbols from multiple ancient civilizations, Minoan, Egyptian, Phoenician, and some unknown scripts, suggested this had been a true cosmopolitan center, perhaps one of the world's first international cities. In the submersible again, Maya explored a chamber that appeared to be some kind of archive, its walls lined with niches that once held scrolls or tablets, all long dissolved by seawater. But in one corner, preserved in what analysis would later reveal to be an early form of waterproof resin, lay a bronze disc inscribed with concentric circles of text. Back in the lab, as experts worked to decipher the disc, Maya found herself drawn to a specific section of the underwater city, a circular structure with radiating corridors that reminded her of something she'd seen in her grandfather's journals. Diving again, this time with Nasir, accompanying in a second submersible, she navigated toward the structure. "This architecture doesn't match anything else we've found," Nasir observed. "These aren't living quarters or temples." "I think it was an observatory," Maya replied, remembering passages from her grandfather's theories about ancient astronomical knowledge. "Look at the alignment of these channels. They correspond to celestial events." As they explored further, Maya's submersible lights illuminated something embedded in the central chamber's floor, a bronze mechanism partially exposed by shifting sands. Her breath caught as she recognized the interlocking gears, similar to but more elaborate than the famous Antikythera mechanism discovered in 1901 off the coast of Greece. "An ancient astronomical computer," she whispered, "but far more advanced than the Antikythera device and significantly older." When the mechanism was carefully recovered and brought to the surface, initial analysis suggested it could predict not just celestial movements, but tidal patterns and, most disturbingly, seismic activity. They knew, Maya realized as she studied the device. They predicted the disaster that would ultimately sink their city. In the archive room, the bronze disc finally yielded some of its secrets. The text, written in an early form of linear A with Egyptian hieroglyphic influences, told of a confederation of coastal cities united by trade and knowledge, sharing astronomical observations and predictions. "Not just one underwater city," Maya explained to the assembled research team, "but a network of them, all linked by this shared knowledge, and they were mapping not just stars, but earth changes, rising seas, earthquakes, volcanic events. A prehistoric scientific community," Nasir marveled. "But if they could predict disasters, they couldn't prevent them," Maya finished his thought. "The evidence suggests they abandoned this city methodically before the seismic event. They took what knowledge they could carry." In the final week of the expedition, Maya's submersible detected an anomaly beneath the observatory floor. Careful excavation revealed a sealed chamber containing what appeared to be a map, etched in gold, and preserved by the oxygen-poor environment, showing the Mediterranean basin, with markings indicating other settlements, most in locations now underwater. Among her grandfather's effects, Maya found a page with coordinates that matched one of these locations, off the coast of southern Turkey. His final expedition had been headed there when he disappeared. As the research vessel prepared to return to port with its unprecedented discoveries, Maya stood at the rail, watching the sunset over the water that had kept these secrets for thousands of years. "You were right, grandfather," she said softly to the wind and waves. "Not just one lost city, but evidence of an entire forgotten chapter of human history." Next to her, Nasir studied a copy of the golden map. "Where will you go first?" Maya pointed to a marking in the Aegean. "Here, This site is shallower than most, and the sediment patterns suggest good preservation conditions. You realize this work will take decades, he cautioned. Maya smiled. These cities waited more than 3,000 years to tell their story. I think they've been patient enough. 6 months later, as the international research coalition Maya had helped form began systematic exploration of the second site, divers discovered an intact burial chamber containing preserved organic material, unprecedented for underwater archaeology. DNA analysis would later reveal evidence of a genetic heritage connecting ancient Mediterranean populations in ways modern historians had never imagined. Proof of cultural exchange and integration far more extensive than previously documented. But for Maya, the most meaningful find came when a colleague brought her a bronze pendant recovered from that same chamber. It was identical to one her grandfather had always worn, a stylized wave pattern surrounding a celestial symbol. The ancient network of knowledge hadn't been entirely lost. Some traditions, it seemed, had been preserved through the millennia, passed down among those who continued to watch the stars and seas, remembering what once was and what might be again. The submerged cities had kept their silence for thousands of years, but now their stories were finally rising to the surface, challenging humanity to remember a shared heritage older and more connected than modern boundaries would suggest. A time when knowledge flowed as freely as the waters that eventually claimed these ancient centers of learning.